Since we've been creating all this artwork, we should look at different ways that we can save and reuse our artwork. The main way to do that is with symbols and templates. Let's start with symbols. So let's say I wanted to save this flower here to reuse. Well, I can just select that artwork, then I just come up to Edit, Create Symbol, or press the F8 key. Then I just pick a name. Be aware that you can't have spaces in symbol names. And then I do want to cut the artwork from the source. That means take it off the stage. I want to do that because I'm going to replace it with the symbol. So there we go. You can see on our timeline that when there's a symbol present, it has this blue-gray color. I'm just going to extend the exposure on this. So if I want to use that symbol again, I just come up to our Libraries panel and select the Symbols folder. Then I can just drag out a copy of that symbol. I can use as many as I want. Be aware that the registration point is going to be the center of the stage when you created the artwork. Now the key thing about symbols is that these are all linked to this symbol in my library. So if I double click on it, I can go in and I have a whole separate timeline that I can edit on. But if I do make an edit, that edit shows up in all other instances of that symbol. So let's undo all that. Now in the case of our rose here, I have a little animation for it. I can save that animation within the symbol. If I select all the frames I want by hitting Shift-click, and then drag those frames to the symbol library, you can see it creates a symbol based on the name of that layer. If I were to drag that out, you can see it added a Rose 1 layer with a symbol that has our animation frames built into it. Another cool use for symbols is to store multiple versions of a piece of artwork. So let's say we wanted to make a symbol that contained all three of these flowers. Well, what we would need to do, I'm going to start by creating a new drawing layer called Flowers. Then I'm just going to copy these flowers onto successive frames of that layer. Then I'm going to hide these layers to get them out of the way. Then I'm going to turn on onion skinning so I can see multiple frames at once. And I'm going to line these all up so that they're in generally the same position. And in fact, I may as well put them all in the center of the stage. There we go. Then I'll just select those frames and drag them into the symbols folder again. And then I have a symbol called flowers. So now back in our scene, if I want to populate it with a bunch of flowers, I could come and drag out our flower symbol, but in this case, I'm actually going to do a right click and hit copy. Then I'm going to create a drawing layer. Then I'll select a frame from that layer and use Command V to paste. Now it only pasted the one frame, but in our library panel, I have access to the other drawings in that symbol using the drawing substitutions, or I can cycle through them with the bracket keys on the keyboard. Now it should be noted that the symbols folder is local to this project file, so you can only use those symbols within this scene. If you want to reuse your artwork in other scenes, you'll need to save them to your system library. So that's this folder here, the Harmony Advanced Library. By default, it's locked with this lock icon. Since multiple different scenes might depend on the contents of this library, it's locked by default so that you don't accidentally mess things up. So in order to add something to it, you first have to right-click and then choose Write to Modify. Now, just like when we create symbols, we can take things and drag them to the library. Now it's going to save it as a .tpl file. That's a template file. Then we hit OK. Then let's go ahead and uncheck Write to Modify to lock that again. Then here in another file, if we go to the Harmony library, we see our flowers template is there. If you don't see it, try right-clicking and hitting refresh. So then, just like when we work with symbols, you can just click and drag and add it to your scene. And just like before, we have access to all the different frames of that symbol. Now, since that template contained a symbol, that symbol is also added to our local symbol library. If the artwork you put into the template isn't a symbol, you won't get that when you import it. Something different about templates compared to symbols is that when you drag a copy of a template to a new scene file, it creates a copy of the artwork within this scene. If this template gets edited, it's not going to change what's already in the scene. So you can't have multiple instances of this template and then modify one to change them all, like you can with a symbol. It's a new copy every time. Templates are great for sharing complex things like character rigs. In the case of our red character here, you can see she has an elaborate network of bones and joints already set up. We wouldn't want to have to recreate this in another file. So to do that, we're going to first collapse our timeline down to just the single frame. We do that because we only have artwork on our first frame. If we don't collapse down the timeline, it's going to try to bring the whole thing with it, and we'll have a lot of empty frames in our template. Then we're going to select our red master peg up here at the top, and then just drag that layer into the library. Oops, got to check right to modify first. And then drag it to the library. Red is a fine name, and then there we have it. So then here in a new file, we can just drag that red template to our stage. And you can see all of her bones and joints and things get added automatically. Being able to use templates to reuse artwork and characters like this is a big reason why a lot of studios adopt Toon Boom. Hopefully by now we're pretty well versed in how to create drawings in Harmony, so in the next series of videos we're finally going to dig into the different methods of animating our characters.